Man, just when I was thinking about going to get something to eat, I was just working on a video to update y'all on who we hired as our defensive lines coach, and next thing I know, this news comes out. So I'm sitting here hungry, and we got to go ahead and get to this because I'm so excited. I don't even feel hungry anymore how excited I am about announcing this hire. The Washington Commanders are hiring Lions executive Lance Newmark. And of course, Martin Mayhew will be demoted, but retained. We're going to talk about what his exact role and title is. Martin Mayhew and Marty Hurney will stick around. We're going to talk about why that may not be a long-term thing potentially, but we're hiring Lance Newmark as our assistant GM, the right-hand man to Adam Peters. We now have Eugene Shin on the analytics side. We have Adam Peters and Lance Newmark as the GM, assistant GM. We have Martin Mayhew, Marty Hurney in advisory roles. This is going to be fun. You know me, man. As optimistic as I am, as glass half full as I am, of course I'm excited about this hire, but I don't think y'all understand how truly amazing this hire is. First of all, we're stealing them from Detroit. We gotta talk about that side of things as well, because we went to Detroit to try to get Ben Johnson pulled whatever that mess he was mid-flight, texting us saying I'm good on the job. I'm pretty sure Adam Peters and company weren't happy about that. So guess what? They went to Detroit and said, we leaving here with something. Remember what Denzel said? We leaving here with something. They did not leave empty-handed, and they're coming back with one of their top talent evaluators and Lance Newmark, arguably one of the biggest reasons why the Detroit Lions even made it as far as they did to the NFC Championship was under his genius. So we're going to talk about how much of a gain this is for us, but also a little bit how much of a loss this could potentially be for the Detroit Lions. We got to talk about how great of a job Josh Harris is doing, Adam Peters is doing. I want to also talk about how this is like clearly Adam Peters' day. Like today, as in February 14th, is Adam Peters' day. For the past couple of weeks, it's been Dan Quinn did this, Dan Quinn did that. These are clearly his guys based on the connections that he's had with them at prior coaching titles he's had elsewhere in the NFL and the college football level. But today, all three hires today were straight Adam Peters. We got to talk about that as well. But of course, we got to talk about Lance Newmark and why I'm super excited about getting him. But before we dive into all of that, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Again, I'm keeping you updated on every little thing going on with the Commanders. I can't wait for everything to be finalized as far as the front office and the coaching staff so we can focus solely on free agency and the draft. The combine is coming up soon. The draft is late April, but we have so much to talk about before then because of the combine and pro days, mock drafts, film sessions. Super excited to get to all of that, but we got to get all of this out of the way first. Now it looks like after we've officially hired our defensive lines coach, I'm going to talk about that in another video later on today. It looks like the only opening left is probably running backs coach. So after we get that done and all of that's finalized, it's straight free agency and draft on this channel especially. So I'm super excited, but let's go ahead and get to this video. It's hard for me to contain my energy right now. Let's get it. So it's being reported that the Commanders are hiring Lions Senior Director of Player Personnel, Lance Newmark, as assistant GM. They are also moving Martin Mayhew into a new role as Senior Personnel Executive and advisor to GM Adam Peters. And then Marty Hurney will take on an advisory role as well. Basically, Adam Peters is making his move now. Again, like I said before the intro, Dan Quinn was perceived to be responsible for most of the moves and hires that the Commanders have made the past couple of weeks, because a lot of them had direct connections to Dan Quinn, even dating back to his days coaching in college for Florida and things like that. And this other stops around the NFL as a defensive coordinator or head coach wherever he's been, Seattle, Atlanta, Dallas. But now, this is Adam Peters' day. Today, February 14th, Wednesday 2024 was Adam Peters' day. He's putting his foot down today, bringing over Anthony Lynn as the run game coordinator, Daryl Tapp as the defensive lines coach, all from the 49ers, and then also bringing over a Lions top front office member and telling Martin Mayhew and Marty Hurney what they will be doing and what they will be called while they're doing it. Adam Peters said, today is my day. We're doing this. We're hiring this guy. You're getting demoted to this. We're taking you from over there and bringing you over here. This was Adam Peters' day to make his chess move. I'm super excited. But on the Lance Newmark situation and why we should be excited about Adam Peters taking over and having this much control is he's only 48 years old. That's not old at all when it comes to things like this. That's fairly young when it comes to being an assistant GM. 28th year in the NFL, very experienced. He started at 26 years in the Lions organization, so I know they're gonna miss him. Everything they've done, I mean, it's basically like he's part of the paint on the walls. Like, it's gonna be weird being a Detroit Lions anything, player, coach, front office member, and to not see his face around there, because he's been there for 26 years and he's been the director of player personnel there for 7 seasons. I would say that this is a home run hire. We're going to talk about why. Well, first of all, Commanders GM Adam Peters talked about Lance Newmark via the team's website and said, basically explained why he was really excited to get him. Quote, I am thrilled to welcome Lance Newmark to the Washington Commanders. Lance is someone that I have known and respected in the scouting community my entire career. He is a highly respected talent evaluator and a great leader who will fit perfectly into what we're building here in Washington. I want to thank Brad Holmes and the Lions organization for being first class and working with us on the process of bringing Lance to the DMV. Maybe the Lions just did that out of, man, I'm sorry, the way our boy Ben Johnson did you. And we don't want to burn any bridges. So here, if we got to sacrifice our dog, Lance Newmark, to make amends so that we can still have a healthy relationship with y'all, because it looks like y'all are building a future Super Bowl contender, we got to do what we got to do. Lance is a phenomenal person. He will immediately elevate our overall personnel function here at the Commanders. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome Lance and his family to Washington. Also, Newark previously oversaw the day-to-day operations of the Lions football information and football technology departments and served as the liaison between these departments and the Lions player personnel function. This is perfect. Eugene Shin is running analytics. Adam Peters is running talent evaluation, the X's and O's, the football side of things. He's literally the bridge between those two, because that's what he did for the Lions. I don't think y'all understand how monumental that is. Lance Newmark, just isolated, is great. I'm really excited about just his talent evaluation and expertise and how many years of experience he's had in the NFL, the relationships he's developed with other teams, as far as like if we're trying to make trades and things like that. But also the fact that for the last few years, he's literally been the guy that's been like the middleman for the analytics side and the football side, and to bring those together. He's literally going to be the translator between Eugene Shin and Adam Peters so that they can see the same vision. They can be speaking the same language, basically. That's big time, man. He played influential roles in both the Lions NFL draft and NFL free agency period processes. Quote, I could not be more excited about joining the Washington Commanders organization, said Newmark himself. I have tremendous respect for Adam and believe strongly in him and in his vision for this franchise. I cannot wait to join Adam, Coach Quinn, and the rest of the organization this week in the DMV. It was very clear in the process that Josh Harris is extremely committed to running a first-class organization and building a championship caliber football team, which made this decision very easy. That's coming from Lance Newmark himself. Again, for reasons I've already explained, I'm extremely excited about this. And also, I think this is very similar to Dan Quinn wanting to bring in Cliff Kingsbury, because he feared what Cliff Kingsbury does best, and that's designing an elite, explosive, pass-heavy offense that stresses defenses at every level, in every way, and forces defenses to cover the entire 80 yards of the field every single play. Adam Peters, parallel to that, is basically saying this guy is fired at what he does, and why not hire him to help us rather than to work against us? I love that type of hire where you're like, man, this guy is really good at what he does. Let's acknowledge that. I love the fact that Adam Peters even just acknowledged that, to scout around the NFL and be like, who's the guy putting in work for these teams? Why is this team this great? Who's responsible for that? So first of all, to acknowledge the fact that this guy is great at doing what you do, and then also being like, well, how about we go get that guy so that he can work for us rather than against us? I love that from the Adam Peters side, but I also love that, of course, from the Lance Newmark side, for Adam Peters to have that much respect for him and to go find him himself and bring him here as his go-to assistant. Basically how John Lynch went and got Adam Peters. That's the same way that Adam Peters is going to get Lance Newmark to basically be his right-hand man, and we could potentially have another Adam Peters in our organization and basically have like two of them running the thing. And again, most importantly though, and I know I'm gonna keep repeating myself, I know I'm gonna say this probably again at some point in this video, but I don't think y'all understand how valuable that is, that this is literally the guy that does the best job of translating in the analytics side and the football side and bringing them together to where they can speak the same language. Because Eugene Shin is going to have more power than a lot of y'all think when it comes to what decisions we make as far as who we get in free agency, the draft, and things like that. Adam Peters is running the show. It's his show. But Eugene Shin is going to have quite a bit of power. And this guy not only is going to have his own influence over the decisions we make, but he's also going to be that direct middleman between those two top talent evaluators for our team. And I'm super excited. It also sounds like we're literally assembling the Avengers over here. Like both the front office and the coaching staff, we're assembling the Avengers. Who's elite at what? Let's get him to go do that specifically. He may do like that along with a couple of other things, but we're not going to spread anybody too thin here. You're coming here to do exactly what you're best at, what you're elite at. That's the reason we're bringing you here. And we have so many other elite guys that you don't have to overwork yourself. You don't have to overthink things. That guy has that. That guy has that. The roles are clear. The responsibilities are specific. You just come here and focus solely on what you do best. Whether that's one thing or a handful of things, just do that. I love it, man. I'm very excited about that part. We're assembling the Avengers over here. And I'm not going to lie, I thought we were done with front office moves other than finding out what Martin Mayhew and Marty Herney were going to be doing, where they were going to go and stuff like that, and what their titles would be. But I never expected that we may bring in an assistant GM. I didn't even know that was on like the Adam Peters wish list. I didn't even know that was something we were looking around for. So this caught me super. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting a new defensive lines coach. I didn't necessarily expect a run game coordinator, but I'm not really surprised by that. But assistant GM completely caught me off guard. I read that notification like, wait, what? Like I saw an Ian Rappaport breaking news, and then I saw Commanders. I was like, wait, what's going on here? I was worried that it may be something bad, but instead it's the exact opposite. It's something great. And shouts out to Colin Dunphy over there on Twitter at MofoPod. Always a great follow, bringing up a lot of great stats and charts and things like that. He brought up a great point. One of the potential pitfalls of a GM that is a former scout is that they assume the role of head scout, diminishing the role of other scouts in the system as a whole. It's encouraging to see another strong evaluator in-house to spread that responsibility, to take a little weight off of Adam Peters' shoulders. It's also highly respectable for Adam Peters on his end to recognize the fact that, yeah, I would like a little bit more help. I don't want to do this all on my own. Remember, that was one of the biggest problems with Ron Rivera, and even Ron Rivera admitted it towards the end of last season before he ended up getting fired. But he came in here and wanted to run the whole show. He wanted to be Bill Belichick, basically. He wanted to be the GM, the head coach, the defensive coordinator, basically everything. And then over time, he started to realize, man, this is too much. Let me bring in Martin Mayhew, Chris Polian, and Marty Herney to help with the GM side of things. Let me bring over Eric Bieniemy this most recent season to run the practices and to completely control the offense to where I don't have to do anything. And then Jack Del Rio was running the defense. So this past season was the least responsibility Ron Rivera has ever had for being the Washington Commanders head coach. And even at the end of that, he was like, man, towards the end of the season, he basically said something to the extent of he was happy that he could just simply coach defense and that was it. Like as if it wasn't your idea that you wanted to control everything. But again, I'm just happy that Adam Peters already recognizes that before he's even had the chance to fail at that like Ron Rivera did. He has the foresight to be like, man, I'm probably going to need some help. I can't do all of this on my own. And I know we already have Eugene Shin. I know Dan Quinn is great. I know Cliff Kingsbury and Joe Wood Jr. are going to do great things on their end. And we already have Martin Mayhew and Marty Herney here as well. But I would love to bring in a guy that I can truly trust, a guy that I wouldn't necessarily say that Adam Peters fears from the other side, from another team, but it's a guy that he highly respects and is like, man, that guy is great at his job, and I would prefer to work with him than to work against him. I love that. Also, shouts out to Colin Duffy for bringing this up as well. It was important for Cal to have opposition in decision making and perspective in order for him to become better. Hopefully, Newmark can basically provide a similar balance for Peters, because Adam Peters and John Lynch did a great job of balancing out Kyle Shanahan to where he doesn't have to overthink things and have to worry about too many things. And it sounds like Adam Peters saw that situation unfold and was like, well, let me get my version of that. I was basically that to Kyle Shanahan. Let me get Newmark to be that for me. And I'm telling y'all, man, the foresight and the introspective, how much they're thinking about every little detail, not overthinking anything, not overlooking anything, is big time. And this just further continues the theme that I'm talking about with guys taking jobs and titles that they are clearly overqualified for just to be a part of this bright future that the Commanders are building, clearly building. This guy probably could have waited until he got like a general manager opportunity elsewhere, but he preferred to come here as an assistant GM rather than waiting to become a real full-time blown GM. Now, maybe, you never know. He comes here for 1 year, gets a lot of the credit for a lot of the great things that we do. Maybe he leaves to become a general manager in the 2025 hiring cycle. I doubt it, but it's a possibility. We'll see. But these hires in both the front office and the coaching staff shows what I've been telling y'all for months now. The Commanders are a great landing spot no matter who you are. If you're a player, coach, front office member, whatever. We are literally the ship that people look like they're trying to jump on before we take off. You better get on while the tickets are cheap, while we're still on the ground floor, while we're still, not a great team. You can be a part of that group of people that gets all of the credit for taking the Commanders from what we've been the past 30 years, more than my lifetime, into what we are now. I'm super excited about that just alone. Y'all should not be surprised, though, if the same thing continues into free agency. You're seeing it with the front office. You're seeing it with the coaching staff. Don't be surprised if free agents want to come here as well. Rather than what we've dealt with so many years now, where the Burgundy and Gold wants players more than players want us. Because if anything, if nothing else matters, at the very least, free agents are going to want to come here just because of who we've hired as coaches and front office members. Like, just looking at who we have, I'm telling you, number one, the guys that we've brought in have a proven history of developing players at their respective positions and areas of expertise. That's already one main reason that free agents will particularly want to come here. But number two, these guys have not only developed players at a high level, but they've also have a proven history of getting the best years out of players and have gotten a lot of players paid and have gotten them great contracts. And that is one thing that's going to hold a lot of weight in this upcoming free agency within the next month. That is something that both players and agents definitely notice. I'm telling you. Do not think they don't notice things like that. We have some coaches in this coaching staff and some front office guys, some talent evaluators, that when players have joined what they're doing on their team, they've had the best years of their NFL career. And then when they left those coaches or that team, those front office members, their stats went down, their production went down. They weren't worth as much when they were ready to hit the market and things like that. That's something people definitely notice. And number three, if so many elite NFL minds are willing to take demotions to come here, to even make lateral moves to come here, there's no way that players around the NFL aren't at the very least curious about what's going on behind that side of the fence. They're looking at that Commander side like, trying to peek over a little bit like, man, maybe they got something going on. There's a lot of elite NFL proven, experienced, high ceiling guys, geniuses, doing whatever they can to go over there. Even if it's to take a demotion or to make a lateral move, they're doing what it takes to get over there and join that Commander staff as a front office member, as a coach or whatever. You can't tell me that players aren't looking over like, I don't know. I mean, even if I don't know what's going on, there must be something. And now I got to be curious about it. Like, now I got to go check it out for myself. I mean, just think about like when you're at a restaurant, you're smelling something great being cooked up in the kitchen. Just imagine if it's like the Commander's restaurant, but you haven't even seen the food yet. You haven't even tasted it yet. We haven't won anything yet. I guess that would be the equivalent of the food tasting good. But the way that it's just smelling, you are at the very least curious and want to see what it's hitting on. And I wouldn't be surprised if we get that same attention from players in free agency coming up, man. I'm super excited. And if Adam Peters and Lance Newmark want to get top free agents, I don't think we'll have a problem of convincing them to come here at this point. I think the only thing that we have really going against us is that this is considered a rebuild. Other than that, we done ones, Jack. I'm telling you right now. And don't worry about Martin Mayhew. First of all, even if he does stay long term, he is at the very best fifth in power in hierarchy. Adam Peters, Dan Quinn, Eugene Shin, and recently hired Larry Newmark will all be above him as far as who has the most say in what we do. Martin Mayhew is, again, fifth at best. He may be even a little bit lower than that. Who knows? But also, I want to point out the fact that people never fire their scouts and draft talent evaluators until really after the draft. And so, even if they do plan on firing him and letting him go, it wouldn't be right now. It would probably be after the draft. But I honestly think that Martin Mayhew is here to stay, but he won't be impactful enough to be able to mess things up, even if he does stay. But remember, he is Adam Peters' boy from way back in San Francisco. So there's a chance he may be gone after the draft, but even if he isn't, again, at best, he's fifth in who has the most say in what goes on for this organization as far as draft and free agency, what players we bring in and stuff like that. Also, y'all know it's not a hiring update video without a Resh Manuel fun fact. And here's one of them, because he's going to have another one later. New Commanders assistant GM Lance Newmark, who obviously has deep ties to Martin Mayhew just from their time in Detroit with each other, incidentally got his start in the NFL with Marty Herney in San Diego. So Lance Newmark not only worked with Martin Mayhew in Detroit, but also worked with Marty Herney in San Diego. You may even be able to say that maybe Martin Mayhew helped Adam Peters make the decision to hire him. Like, Adam Peters already respected him as a talent evaluator, as a draft analyst and things like that, a guy that approaches the draft the right way and all of that type of stuff. And then maybe Martin Mayhew was that last little checklist, like, all right, let me talk to Martin Mayhew about him. How is he behind the scenes? Who is he as a person? Maybe Martin Mayhew, even though we don't necessarily like him as Commanders fans as a talent evaluator, maybe he helped us land Lance Newmark. Maybe potentially Martin Mayhew was like okay, well, at least I have one familiar face over there. Let me go work with the Commanders, because at the very least I got Martin Mayhew to show me around and how things work over here, what they're trying to build to convey that message and to be that little bridge from going from the Lions to the Commanders. He has a familiar face in the building. So if Martin Mayhew had any impact on us landing Lance Newmark, I'm happy. I'm ecstatic about Martin Mayhew still being here. Also, I want to point out the fact that Adam Peters worked with Martin Mayhew in San Francisco. Martin Mayhew and Lance Newmark worked together in Detroit. Peters hired Newmark as an assistant GM for the Commanders. Now all three are together working for the Commanders front office. Again, Martin Mayhew was that bridge between Adam Peters and Lance Newmark. So thank you, Martin Mayhew. No thanks for a lot of the draft decisions you made and free agency decisions you made over the past few years. But thank you for bringing Adam Peters and Lance Newmark together. Potentially, if you had anything to do with it, I want to acknowledge that, man. I think you deserve some applause for that. Also, Lance Newmark got his NFL start working for Bobby Beathard, the Hall of Fame Washington Redskins Ring of Fame Bobby Beathard himself. So if anything, just off of that alone, if you didn't listen to anything else I said, if you only heard that, you should already be optimistic about Lance Newmark, because Bobby Beathard himself saw potential in Lance Newmark a long time ago and was like, hey man, I want him a part of my staff because he looks like he has something going for him. And the fact that Adam Peters many years later sees the same thing should tell you all you basically need to know about Lance Newmark. If Bobby Beathard and Adam Peters agree on something, you know it's something good. Also, Chris Russell of the Locked On Commanders podcast credits our new assistant GM and Lance Newmark and the Lions front office members just as a whole with more credit for the recent success of the Lions than the coaches like a Ben Johnson. And hey man, there's a point to that. He said in his tweet, the most important part of the Lions turnaround has not been the dude who calls plays, as some will tell you. It's been Brad Holmes and the Detroit personnel staff. Now Adam Peters strikes and takes part of the real success away from the Detroit Lions and brings them to the Commanders. And there's a point to that. There may be something to that for real, because if you really think about it, two of the best teams at the NFL draft in recent years have been the 49ers and the Lions. And now the Commanders brought in Adam Peters from the 49ers and Lance Newmark from the Lions. Think about it. Chess, not checkers, man. Chess, not checkers. And now we have the number 2 overall pick and 6 top 102 picks in the draft. On top of having the most cap space in the NFL, it's starting to feel unfair with who we're bringing in on the front office and the coaching side of things. I'm not going to lie. Speaking of the draft, Listen to how Lance approaches the draft process, and this made me even more excited about him. Shouts out to Rich Manuel for finding them. Here's a good interview for a few years back with new Commanders assistant GM Lance Newmark. This was heading into the 2020 Combine. Shouts out again to Rich Manuel for finding this. Using your example of running back group, are they sitting there with a spreadsheet in front of them and they're filling in scores for each drill? When you say, give us your best guys for that day, what are you looking for? And then he answered, best thing about college scouting is everybody does it different. When I'm watching the running backs, it'll be totally different from what the next guy to me is probably seeing. But it's a collaboration. Hey, I really like the way he moved in that drill, liked his burst and speed. But we do have a template for each specific drill. So say there's 7 running back drills, whatever the number is. We'll have a template for all our scouts in their book. Okay, grade him on that, grade him on that. Keep a running tab throughout the workout, then tabulate it up. They'll keep track of what they liked and what they didn't. So I'm telling you, man, this guy is such a great hire. Shouts out to Colin Dunphy for reading that article and bringing this up to the attention. This is great. I love how he acknowledges the level noise that each evaluator brings with their perspective and how evaluating each drill one at a time before coming to a conclusion can address that. And what I got from it is that it's really about the little things and not only what you do, but how you go about doing it. Adam Peters is bringing in a guy in Lance Newmark that can even help with just the little things like perfecting the process and not only just the result. If you perfect the process, you'll get the result that you want more times than not. Far more often than if you don't perfect the process. And Lance Newmark is a process perfecter, basically, is what it seems like. The way that he broke that down just for the running back position alone as far as the combine goes. Like, he's all about, let's do this way so that it can help increase our chances of getting the right result. And Adam Peters clearly liked that about him and was like, that's what I want to help me. I'm already a great talent evaluator. I'm arguably the best late round talent evaluator in the entire NFL, out of every GM, out of every elite NFL mind, president of player personnel, whoever you want to say. I'm already elite at that. Let me bring in a guy that helps me where I'm possibly potentially weak at, or potentially have an opening at to where I may not be the best at that thing. I'm telling y'all, man, I mean, we're literally doing all of the right things. I don't know what else to say. And to be super petty, Detroit, yeah, Eminem, draw up a diss song for him. Eminem may not even exactly know who that guy is. I don't know how serious of a fan he is for the Detroit Lions, but draw up a diss song for Lance Newmark, please, because we got your guy, Detroit. We didn't get the other guy we wanted, but like Denzel said, we leaving here with something. I'm not leaving here with nothing. I mean, I love it. We didn't leave Detroit empty-handed at all. You want to play, Ben? Okay, all right. Well, you'll pay for that in one of your top talent evaluators. How about you coach the Detroit Lions with that? Also, I want to point out some background facts on Lance Newmark before we move on. Prior to being named the Senior Director of Player Personnel in 2022, Lance Newmark served as Director of Player Personnel for 5 seasons from 2016 to 2021 for the Detroit Lions. He also held roles of Director of College Scouting 2015 to 2016, Assistant Director of College Scouting 2008 to 2014, and National Scout 2005 to 2007, and Area Scout 1999 to 2004. Every time this guy gets a role, he just exceeds his expectations and gets promoted, and just keeps moving up the ladder. His first season in Detroit was in 1998, where he assisted the player personnel department with various scouting assignments during the season and in preparation for the 1999 NFL Draft. I'm really excited about this guy, man. This guy has a lot of experience with a lot of different titles and responsibilities. He's coming here to bring all of those different skills and different assets and traits that he has that help build a good team from the ground up, from the talent side. And he's going to put it all into just helping general manager Adam Peters. I'm super excited. Also, adding Newmark gives Washington another experienced voice in the front office. He spent the past 26 years with the Lions, rising from an assistant in the personnel department to becoming their Senior Director of Player Personnel, where he helped oversee both the college and pro scouting operations. He was considered a key assistant to Detroit's Executive Vice President and GM, Brad Holmes. Basically his right, just like how Adam Peters was John Lynch's right-hand man, this guy, Lance Newmark, was Brad Holmes's right-hand man, who built a team that reached the NFC Championship game this season. Newmark, I think is really interesting, survived 3 regime changes in Detroit. Everybody that took over Detroit was like, man, we should keep that guy. Nah, we not gonna replace him. We should keep him around. 3 of them, 3 regime changes. He was a national scout for 3 years and Detroit scouting director for 2 years. He was the team's director of player personnel for 5 years, and Newmark also interviewed for the Detroit's GM opening before the Lions decided to go with Holmes instead in 2021. But he was a candidate at the time, and again, when Holmes came in, instead of bringing in a new guy, he was like, I should probably keep that guy. That guy knows what he's doing, and Adam Peters feels the same way. And again, just to go all the way back, Bobby Beathard identified him way earlier in his career, like, hey man, this may be somebody special. This is coming up in the talent evaluation world. Also, super random background info. He's a La Mesa, California native. Newmark played wide receiver for 2 years at San Diego Mesa College before transferring to the University of San Diego for 1 year. He holds a degree in social sciences. He is married to his wife, Jennifer, and they have 3 daughters. Before we move on, also, now that we're moving on from Lance Newmark, I do want to shout out Josh Harris, of course, for creating an environment that would even allow this to be possible, for us to even make these hires. Because shouts out to George Carmi for bringing up this point. I completely agree. A consistent message from Josh Harris and his leadership group has been, quote, we are going to find and hire the best people and hold them accountable, unquote. So far, this message does not seem to be lip service. Harris has allowed Adam Peters and Dan Quinn to construct a diverse staff consistent of former head coaches, players, and organizational experience. There's upside in the youth of some of the coaches as well. So we have a lot of guys with a lot of experience, but we also have some of those young, bright minds that's like the prodigy, the guy that's the next this. We have like the next Mike McDonald, the next Bobby Slowick potentially on staff. So we have a healthy mix of everything that you need for a team to succeed, and I'm super excited. I didn't even mean for that to rhyme. I'm just dropping bars by accident at this point. But yeah, man, back to Josh Harris. This, just to let you know, and I know this for pretty much a 100% fact. This would have never happened under Dan Snyder. My fault, not Dan Quinn. Dan Snyder. I'm so used to saying Dan Quinn now, and I'm just so ready to get rid of Dan Snyder from my memory, just completely erase it, that I'm starting to build that habit of saying Dan Quinn even when I'm trying to say Dan Snyder. But either way, just to let you know, none of these hires, at the very least, most of them, I believe, would not have happened if Dan Snyder was here. I believe he was the biggest blame for the Burgundy and Gold's failures throughout my entire lifetime. Again, I wasn't allowed to see any of the Super Bowls. All I know is Dan Snyder. So again, Adam Peters and most of, maybe even all of this Commanders front office and coaching staff probably would have never have come here if Dan Snyder was still the owner. So we gotta just take some time to applaud and thank Josh Harris for paving the way for this and creating, again, an environment that allows these guys to do what they do best. He fully trusts them to handle all football things. He's like, I'm the businessman. Y'all are the football guys. Do football things. I'll be over here. Just let me know when I need to write a check or what I need to do on my end. But y'all are controlling this thing. And so far, it seems like we're hitting home runs on everything, shooting 100% from the field, I would argue, or at the very least, a ridiculously high percentage from the field. We still have a couple of hires that are a little questionable, but we've been hitting home runs on so many other ones that I'm assuming that those same NFL minds, those same elite geniuses that came up with a lot of these great hires that we've had, with the questionable ones, I'm just going to give them the benefit of the doubt, at the very least for those. And shouts out to Dan Quinn as well, because this is not Northern North Carolina anymore at all. I also want to thank him. We're doing things completely different from Ron Rivera. This is a complete 180. I know people were photoshopping his face on the Ron Rivera just simply because he's a defensive-minded head coach. He's been a previous head coach elsewhere and ended up getting fired by that team, and then also he's like this new CEO leader type of guy. People were willing to run through a wall for him, but he's completely the opposite of Ron Rivera in pretty much every other way other than that, and I'm so excited about that, man. The thing that we're building here, I'm telling y'all, get it on the ground up now. Like, if you were hiding your Commanders jersey, your Redskins jersey, whatever, your burgundy and gold apparel under other stuff, now's the time to rip it open and go ahead and claim this team now, because we're only on the up and up. We can only go up from here from just how bad we've been in general, but I truly believe we're building a Super Bowl contender here. I don't know how soon that will be. I don't know if that's sooner rather than later, but I know we're building a team that's going to compete for sure. It may not be in 2024, but I think it's going to be sooner than a lot of y'all think, and I'm super excited. So y'all should be too, man. I really believe that. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. I'm super excited. Make sure y'all stay tuned. I'm about to go get me something to eat because I'm starving now. When I first started the video, I was so excited that I couldn't even feel the hunger that I had anymore. But now, after talking for almost 40 minutes straight, I think I'm about ready to go get something to eat. So let me go ahead and get this video out there to y'all, edit it, all that type of stuff, and I'm about to go get something to eat. Then I'll come back and do the video on the hiring of Daryl Tapp as our defensive lines coach or whatever other. I mean, as often as news is coming out for us, it seems like we're the most active team in the offseason this right now, because it just seemed like left and right there's something new every day with the Commanders, and I have to be ready to report on it. So make sure y'all stay tuned. I'm excited. I'm gonna keep y'all updated on everything, and of course, once we're done with all of this hiring stuff, we're diving head first into free agency and mock drafts and draft season stuff, and not just mock drafts for the drafts part, but like also mock off seasons, like, because I want to look at things in a way to where we're not only doing mock drafts by themselves, we're also like, okay, if we go get this elite edge rusher and this elite safety in free agency, then we don't have to worry about that in the draft. Then we go into the draft, we do a mock draft based on those needs already filled in free agency, and then we address the needs that we have remaining. So be on the lookout for not only some more mock drafts, but also I'm gonna start doing some off season mocks as well. So stay tuned for all of that. I'm really excited. Appreciate y'all. I'm trying my best to try to read and reply to as many comments as possible. Like I said, I'm probably going to set aside a few hours, maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow or something, to go back to videos even as old as a week ago and try to read and reply to as many comments as possible. Stay patient with me. I really appreciate y'all. I'm going to catch y'all later. I'm out.